Andrew Romain, and I'm actually part of the Dixie Lug group in Georgia, Metro Atlanta area, and I'd been thinking of an idea like this for quite a long time because it's interesting looking at different ideas that you look at. Pretty much everything's been done in Lego. You know, you have some really elaborate bridges and buildings and things like that, but apart from some really basic models, nobody's really done a highway interchange. So, you know, I decided, yeah, well, I want to take a crack at this and see what I can come up with. So this is kind of my first attempt at this. This is actually literally the first day that this has been displayed in its entirety. So it was kind of frantic trying to get everything together, and there still are some incomplete parts here. There's some bridge railings here that are missing and some other details that I would have liked to add, but you know, I definitely am excited to see it all in one place and to you know, see what I was able to come up with.
Yeah. It's very impressive. So is this based off of any real, you know, kind of spaghetti junction like this, or just kind of general feel of it?
Well, it is kind of the general feel. I did look at some specific 4-level interchanges around. I know there's this really interesting one in Shanghai, China, that has a similar sort of center decorative column in there that supports the ramps over that, and certainly, you know, some other ones in the area that have a similar design. Certainly you're faced with some of the limitations of the Lego parts and things. One of the things that I base this on is I'd been collecting some of these old Lego Racers track pieces for a while. Actually, I've done some moon-based displays before. I actually have one here at BrickFair as well, but I like to get these tracks for what they called the moon bus. So I've sort of reused these for the ramp pieces for the interchange, since they're really the way that you can provide both the slope and the curved sections that I would need for this. And so it always presents an interesting quandary with a builder trying to mix the old dark gray and the newer dark gray, the pieces that I have for the straightaways, but you know, I think it works reasonably well for this.
Yeah, those slope pieces work really well. And then what for the bigger, flatter sections, what pieces did you use for that?
These were these 8x16 tile pieces. I had to order a whole lot of these. These are definitely hard to come by in any quantity, but I was able to do that. And I opted to use this pinstripe tape for the lane lines. I toyed with the idea of using tile pieces for those, but both between the difficulty and expense of that and also the way the spacing worked out, it worked out perfectly with the interchange section as far as the width that I wanted to have, to just have the pieces, the tile pieces with a little median in the middle, just to stripe things out. So that's why I opted to go with that.
One detail I really like that you've done here is the signs above the road kind of pointing in different directions, so you can point out some of your favorites and what some of those signs say.
Yeah, well, basically all of the signs, I wanted to make sure for this design that everything had some sort of relation to Lego, some sort of connection. So as you can see, the different destination signs, of course, we have Billin, of course, the founding town of Lego, Enfield, where the U.S. Lego Corporation is located, and then a couple of the actual Lego names, Heart Lake City and Ninjago City. And then, of course, one of my favorites, this was one of my first really big sets. We have Main Street down here. And this Legoland Hotel billboard is actually vintage from my set that I had back in 1980. So, and I tried to make some references to that there with the edge of the car lot on this side here. There's the sign in the car. I was still trying to find the car dealer guy, so I'll look for that. But then on the other side, we have the popcorn sales person. He's now moved to mobile, so he's on his little bicycle there. But yeah, I tried to do some nods to some older sets and things. But I also, in addition to the highway signs, which are, I am a professional civil engineer, so these are the actual same standard signs that you would get out on the highway, made with the same software that you would use for real life signs. So they're all the standards, those standards. And then certainly I have the electronic signs over here. On this direction, this is signing for an incident up ahead and for the traffic to exit. So you have the highway department flashers telling people that they have to exit here to detour around our incident, which I'll get to shortly. And then on the other side of the electronic sign, of course, we have this is, of course, a reference to the song from the Lego movie, except it's one of these sort of service and public safety announcements that sometimes they have on the electronic signs. That's in that direction. And then along here, I've also included some various billboards. You already saw the Legoland Hotel one. But then I've also included one of the ones like this one, for example. Some of you may recognize that from the Lego movie. The funny thing about the Lego movie is there's so much action going on. There are a lot of these things you just see in passing, but I was able to get, so they have some websites with screenshots from different movies, so I was able to get this, and there are a couple of other billboards at the other end that we can look at later that are from that. And then, of course, I have some sort of tourist signs for Heart Lake City and Ninjago City there.
Yeah, so just kind of throwing back to all the different Lego themes that are out there, and then, like you said, where the city's Lego is based in. Yeah. Another great detail is lighting you've incorporated in some of the vehicles here, so talk about how you achieved that.
Well, these are basically just using some of the older 9-volt battery boxes, and then some of the flashing lights here that I have. I have, like this highway department vehicle down here. And then I have a couple of the police vehicles who are blocking off these ramps from the incident here. So it's a little bit crude, but I have one with the battery boxes powering this one police vehicle, and then the wire leading to the other one. So I can kind of get a 2-for-1 with the power on those ones. One thing I didn't mention about the signs is that all the numbers, the exit numbers and the highway numbers, also have Lego significance. So one of the things, if you all want to look up various dates in Lego history, that's where some of those different numbers come from, as far as key dates in Lego history.
Sort of a lot of Easter eggs in there. That's really neat.
Yeah. And it also just so happens that the highway numbers also didn't want to reproduce any actual existing numbers. So for any of you road geeks out there, you'll know that US 47 and Interstate 58 are not actual real numbers that exist. I wanted to make this all kind of fictional in its own world so people wouldn't sort of associate, oh, this is like this highway in real life. I wanted it to be really fictional.
Sure. And when you started planning for this build, obviously you've got all these different layers with the roads and everything, the different types of road. How did you start planning? Was there sketches or computer models, or how did that work?
Well, I'd planned things a lot in my mind and sketch things out. The main thing was sort of the central interchange, figuring out that, because all the other dimensions would key off of that, figuring out how many straightaways and curves and how much clearance above each level I had to have. And then one of the things I envisioned long-term for this model is to be able to incorporate it as part of a town display. I know our club does a lot of town and train displays. So I made sure that the clearance above the first level would be enough to allow for a train and tracks to go underneath, and that it would be flexible for future builds, so you could change the length of different things. Obviously, it still has to be 90 degrees because that's just kind of the way we do things at Lego, but at least there'd be some flexibility with where the columns were located, what road plates or other things are underneath. I've tried to put some different things underneath some of the overpasses. There's a little playground area in one section, a little skate park and a basketball court. Other various details underneath. There's a little. I didn't have a troll, so I used a Rancor monster instead under one of the sections of the bridges. So
yeah, that's really cool. I'm glad you were able to fit so many awesome details in there. I think that the build is really unique. You don't see a lot of builds like this with all the different road heights and everything. So I think it's a cool, unique build. I'm glad you were able to set it up.
I like doing things with height. It's one of the things actually in my other moon-based build I've done a couple of towers as well. So I do like the vertical dimension of things. I mean, even things like these high mast lights that you see in some of these interchanges, I wanted to add those there in addition to the regular, more conventional street lights along the middle here. Add a little drama at this end, and I got this idea from one of my friends in the group of Superman rescuing a bus that's about to plunge off the side of the building. So that was just it's always interesting to add some extra drama. I know the kids especially tend to like that, but just to not be, okay, this is a highway, but figuring out things to make it more interesting, especially since in this particular setup I didn't end up putting it as part of a town, so it had to have enough as it's to stand on its own, not just be, oh, here's a road.
Exactly. Well, I love all the details, and I appreciate you chatting with me about the build. Thanks for bringing it to BrickFair.
All right. Thank you.